You know what's funny? We all want to change our lives. We dream big, we make plans, we set New Year's resolutions. But somehow, 3 months later, we're right back where we started. Why does this happen? Because we think change has to be big, dramatic, all or nothing. But what if I told you that the most powerful changes in life don't come from giant leaps, but from tiny steps so small they almost seem ridiculous? Today, I want to share a story with you. A true story that will completely change how you think about progress. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why starting small isn't just good advice, it's the only way real transformation happens. So let's dive in. Let me tell you about James. James was 32 years old, working a job he didn't hate but didn't love either. He'd look at himself in the mirror every morning and think, is this it? Is this all my life is going to be? He'd wanted to write a book. He'd wanted to write one since he was in college. But 10 years had passed, and he hadn't written a single page. Every January, same resolution, this year, I'm going to write my book. And every January, he'd buy a new notebook, open his laptop with determination, and tell himself, I'm going to write for 2 hours every day. Day 1, he'd maybe write for 30 minutes before getting distracted. Day 2, he'd skip it because he was tired from work. Day 3, the guilt would set in. I already failed, what's the point? By February, the notebook would be collecting dust. Sound familiar? Now, here's where the story gets interesting. One day, James was listening to a podcast while driving to work. The guest said something that stopped him in his tracks. Don't aim to write for 2 hours, aim to write one sentence. Just one, every single day, James almost laughed. One sentence? That's nothing. That won't get a book written, but something about it stuck with him. That night, before bed, he opened his laptop. He didn't set a timer, he didn't make coffee. He didn't light candles or put on inspiring music. He just wrote one sentence. The old house stood at the end of Maple Street, its windows dark like closed eyes. That's it, then he closed the laptop and went to sleep. The next night, same thing, one sentence. Nobody had lived there for 20 years, but some nights, people swore they saw a light in the attic. He wasn't trying to write a chapter, he wasn't trying to be perfect. He was just keeping a promise to himself, one sentence. After a week, something strange happened. On day 8, he wrote his one sentence, and then another one came. And another, before he knew it, he'd written the whole paragraph. But he didn't force it, it just flowed. Some nights, he still only wrote one sentence. And that was okay, after 30 days, he had 30 sentences. Some nights had turned into paragraphs, some paragraphs had turned into pages. After 90 days, he had 15,000 words. After 6 months, he had a complete first draft of his book. The book that had felt impossible for 10 years was done. Not because he suddenly found motivation. Not because he carved out 2 hours every day. But because he made the barrier to entry so small, he couldn't say no one sentence. That's all it took. Now, let's pause here. What's really happening in this story? James didn't succeed because he found willpower. He succeeded because he understood something most people miss. Big goals fail because the gap between where you were and where you want to be feels too big. When you say, I'm going to write for 2 hours every day, your brain immediately thinks about all the reasons you can't do that. You're tired, you got work tomorrow. You don't know what to write, you're not good enough. But when you say, I'm going to write one sentence, your brain can't argue with that. It's too small to resist, and here's the magic, once you start, momentum takes over. Think about it, the hardest part of going to the gym isn't the workout. It's putting on your shoes and walking out the door. Once you're there, you'll probably exercise. The hardest part of eating healthy isn't avoiding junk food all day. It's making one good choice at breakfast. The hardest part of learning a language isn't becoming fluent. It's practicing one word. Small steps remove the friction between intention and action. And when you remove friction, consistency becomes easy. And when consistency becomes easy, results become inevitable. James wrote a book, not in one burst of inspiration, but in 200 tiny moments of showing up. That's the power we're talking about, so what does this mean for you? Maybe you want to get fit, don't commit to the gym 5 days a week. Commit to one push-up before bed, Maybe you want to learn guitar. Don't practice for an hour, practice one chord change. Maybe you want to read more. Don't aim for 50 books a year. Read one page before bed. Maybe you want to start a business. Don't build the entire website today. Write one sentence of your business plan. The goal isn't to do the minimum. The goal is to make starting so easy that you can't fail. Because once you start, you won't want to stop. Here's what I want you to take away from James's story. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need endless motivation. You just need to take one small step. Today, right now. Because daily tiny actions create massive results over time. Not someday, not when you're ready, today. So ask yourself, what's the one small thing I can do today? And then do it. Because that's how change really happens. One sentence, one step, one day at a time.